Welcome to the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, a jewel of nature located in northern Tanzania, near the border with Kenya. This place is not only one of the most spectacular in all of Africa, but a true microcosm of wildlife, where the forces of nature meet in an eternal and fascinating ballet. In this vast space of over 8,000 square kilometers, where the deep blue sky touches the golden earth, life and death dance to the sound of the wind sweeping the savannas and the echo of roars reverberating through the hills and valleys. Here, in a natural cauldron formed by a cataclysmic volcanic eruption millions of years ago, the Ngorongoro Crater offers not only refuge but also a stage for the struggle for survival that defines the daily cycle of its inhabitants. The crater, with its impressive 304 square kilometers of extension and walls rising over 600 meters high, harbors a biodiversity that few places in the world can match. More than 25,000 animals call this place home, from majestic elephants and rhinoceroses to swift gazelles, of course, the mighty predators that rule this wild kingdom. For thousands of years, lions have been revered as the true lords of the jungle. Their sharp claws and colossal strength have placed them at the top of the food chain. But there is something more about these predators that captures human imagination: their grandeur and almost mythical aura. Among all the lions that have ever walked these lands, no group has been as legendary as the Ngorongoro Quintet. This coalition of 5 giant lions emerged unexpectedly, taking over the crater lands and shaping its destiny irreversibly. It is not known for sure how these giants came to be. Some believe their immense size is the result of a pure and ancient genetic lineage, while others attribute their size and power to ruthless natural selection. What is known is that their arrival in 2013 marked the beginning of a new era. These lions were not just larger than usual, they were giants. Each of them, weighing more than 250 kilograms of pure muscle, had imposing manes that made them appear even more terrifying. The leader, known as Hairy Mammal, was the largest of all, a colossus weighing 258 kilograms, with a presence that made even the fiercest predators hesitate. But it wasn't just their size that made them special, it was how they operated together. The arrival of the quintet turned Ngorongoro into a silent battlefield. Their movements were precise and coordinated. They hunted together, defended their territory with relentless brutality, and eliminated, one by one, the lions who dared to challenge their reign. The former kings of the crater, who had ruled for years, quickly fell before the overwhelming force of the quintet. Thus, a new dynasty was established. But as the power of the 5 solidified, an invisible tension began to form in the shadows. Rivals, both within and outside their territory, watched. Other lions, hungry for power and land, began to probe the edges of the crater, seeking an opportunity to overthrow the new rulers. The environment itself, with its severe droughts and constant challenges, seemed to test the resilience of the giants. However, within the group, something deeper also began to emerge. A silent dispute for control, a desire for power that could destabilize the coalition itself. With their reign solidified, the Ngorongoro Quintet dominated every corner of the crater. Hello everyone, if you are enjoying our content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. The territory they had conquered was vast, rich in prey and resources, and their imposing presence made any rival think twice before attempting a confrontation. Hairy Mammal, the natural leader, ruled with a combination of brute strength and cunning. He wasn't just the largest among them, but also the most strategic, commanding the quintet with a quiet authority, respected by all. However, like any monarchy, power comes at a price, and maintaining their dominance required constant vigilance. Time passed, and the coalition began facing challenges that would test the unity of the group. While Hairy Mammal maintained firm leadership, the other members of the coalition, LK-116, LK-117, Titan Jr., and LK-123, also hungered for more. The hunts became increasingly fierce, and tension between the 5 intensified as the mating season approached. Amid disputes over territory and prey, there was now a new focus of conflict: the pride's females. The cycle of life in the savannah is unforgiving, and as the older lions aged, the younger ones began to question their leaders' positions. Within the coalition, LK-123, the youngest and smallest of the group, began showing signs of impatience. He knew that one day, he would have to claim his place of prominence, and each day of waiting felt like an eternity. His desire for power grew as he watched his older brothers enjoying the privileges of leadership while he remained in hairy mammal's shadow. The first crack in the coalition appeared during one of their hunts. While chasing a herd of buffalo, LK-123 acted on his own, trying to impress the group with his skill. He underestimated the strength of one of the largest males in the herd, and in a hasty attack, was violently repelled, nearly suffering a grave injury. Hairy Mammal intervened, saving his younger brother, but made it clear that acting without the group was not an option. The message was clear, but the humiliation of LK-123 planted a seed of resentment. As the quintet faced internal pressures, external threats were also mounting. Rivals, once distant, began to approach the crater. Among them was a coalition of nomadic lions, who, upon hearing about the quintet's power, saw an opportunity to challenge the kings in their own territory. Two lions in particular, known for their brutality and their desire to expand their lands, began probing the crater's edges, watching the movements of the giants. They knew that a direct attack would be suicide, but they also knew that time was not on Hairy Mammal's side or his brothers. Seasons passed, and, like in all monarchies, time took its toll. Hairy Mammal began showing signs of aging. His reflexes were no longer as quick, and the scars from old battles were more visible. His body, which had once been the most powerful in the coalition, was starting to give way to the passage of years. But his mind remained sharp, and he knew that the true threat to his reign might not come from outside, but from within. LK-116 and LK-117, the two hunting brothers, were loyal to Hairy Mammal, but they began noticing the weaknesses that came with age. Although they respected their leader, the idea of a new leadership, with him in command, no longer seemed so distant. They quietly observed Titan Jr.'s moves, the largest of the brothers after Hairy Mammal, who was also beginning to think about what would happen when the throne became vacant. As the tension grew, their territory continued to thrive. The cubs born under the quintet's protection were growing. Among them, a few young males began to show signs of strength and independence. The next generation was on the rise, but would it be enough to maintain the quintet's legacy? Then, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. A devastating drought hit the Ngorongoro region, and resources began to dwindle. The herds of herbivores, which once filled the horizon, moved in search of water and grazing land. The giants' territory was drying up, and prey became scarce. This was the ultimate test for the coalition, which now had to not only defend its territory but also fight to survive. With the territory weakened and Hairy Mammal's leadership in question, the rival lions in the distance finally saw their opportunity. They were no longer shadows at the edges of the crater. They were ready to attack. The drought tightened its grip on Ngorongoro, turning the once fertile crater into a land of desolation. The dry, cracked ground mirrored the tension hanging over the quintet. The fight for survival was becoming increasingly desperate, and the unity of the coalition was on the edge. Within the group, the situation reached a critical point. LK-123, the youngest and most impatient, could no longer hide his ambition. He knew that with resources dwindling and Hairy Mammal weakened, the moment to act was now. During a failed hunt, where hunger began to affect the giant's performance, LK-123 openly challenged his leader's authority. He approached a meager zebra that had been killed and tried to claim the first right to feed, a privilege that had always belonged to Hairy Mammal. The air stood still. All the lions in the group watched, waiting for the leader's reaction. Hairy Mammal, with his mane still imposing, slowly rose to his feet. His eyes, which once dominated the crater with a fierce gaze, now showed signs of weariness, but not weakness. He knew this moment would come, but he never imagined it would be his youngest brother who would betray him first. The roar that followed was like thunder cutting through the suffocating silence of the savannah. Hairy Mammal attacked LK-123 with all the strength left in his massive body. The fight was brutal. The dry ground kicked up dust as the two brothers clashed with fury. The other lions watched without intervening. This was the final test of leadership, a battle for survival as much as for the throne. The blows were violent, but Hairy Mammal's fatigue soon began to show. LK-123, smaller but more agile, managed to avoid the most devastating attacks. Gradually, he found an opening and sank his teeth into hairy mammal's shoulder, drawing blood. The leader, wounded, let out a roar of agony but did not surrender. He rose again, his eyes fixed on the traitor. For a moment, silence dominated the battlefield. LK-116 and LK-117, the hunting brothers, exchanged glances. Was this the end of Hairy Mammal? The leader who had guided them through so many victories was now vulnerable. But was LK-123, the youngest and most impulsive, truly worthy of taking the throne? Before the battle could reach a conclusion, roar echoed in the distance. The two nomadic lions, who had been lurking around the quintet's territory for months, had finally crossed the boundary. They were ready to attack. The quintet's internal conflict had attracted their enemies, who now saw a golden opportunity to seize control of Ngorongoro. With the intruders advancing rapidly, Hairy Mammal and LK-123 stopped their fight, both breathing heavily, covered in dust and blood. But there was no time for grudges or internal disputes. The true test of leadership was about to begin. The roar of the two nomadic lions echoed through the crater, carried by the dry wind that swept the battlefield dust. Hairy Mammal and LK-123, injured and exhausted from their internal struggle, looked at each other briefly, aware that the real enemy was approaching. Any personal grudges or ambitions now needed to be set aside. The quintet was facing a threat that could destroy everything they had built over the years. Hairy Mammal's leadership would once again be tested, but this time, not just against his own brothers. The nomadic lions, drawn by the quintet's internal conflict and the weakened territory due to the drought, finally saw the opportunity they had been waiting for. They were not unknown in the region. Their presence had been felt before, but never so close. What had once been a distant threat was now a direct invasion. These lions were not merely after a hunt. They wanted to take Hairy Mammal's throne and reign over Ngorongoro. As the invaders approached, the hunting brothers, LK-116 and LK-117, who had until then watched the fight between Hairy Mammal and LK-123 with a mix of concern and interest, now took their positions. They knew this was the moment to act. Despite the cracks within the coalition, blood ties and the need for survival spoke louder. They lined up alongside Hairy Mammal, forming a defensive line. Titan Jr., the second largest and most imposing, though reluctant, joined the group. His hesitation in supporting the leader was evident, but the urgency of the situation outweighed his personal ambitions. The nomads advanced confidently. They knew they were outnumbered, but they were counting on the quintet's weariness, on the physical and emotional wounds they had inflicted on each other. When the two groups finally faced off, the air was thick, charged with the electricity of an imminent clash. There was no turning back now. The giants of Ngorongoro would face the greatest battle of their lives. Hairy Mammal, even weakened, took the lead position in the front line. His body still displayed the majestic stature that had made him the undisputed king for so many years, but his legs trembled slightly, a sign that time and battles were beginning to take their toll. LK-123, by his side, still showed the same drive that had almost led him to overthrow his older brother, but now, his eyes were focused on a common enemy. For LK-123, this was his chance to prove he deserved his brother's respect, and perhaps even the throne. The first seconds of the confrontation were wild. The two groups collided with overwhelming force. The roars cut through the air, and the impact of the bodies colliding echoed through the crater. Hairy Mammal lunged at the largest of the nomadic lions, a colossus almost as imposing as himself. The fight was brutal, a mix of strength and experience against the ferocity of a younger lion hungry for power. Meanwhile, LK-116 and LK-117 fought side by side, attacking the second nomadic lion with coordination honed from years of hunting and battling together. The two brothers were known for their ability to hunt large prey, and now they used that same technique to bring down the enemy. However, the battle was far from simple. The nomadic lions, though fewer in number, had the advantage of freshness. They were not worn down by the drought, nor by the internal disputes that plagued the quintet. Their ferocity and determination were impressive, and each blow they landed seemed stronger than the last. Titan Jr., seeing the intensity of the fight, realized he would need to intervene to secure victory. He threw himself into the fray with his immense strength, grabbing the second nomadic lion, and with LK-116 and LK-117, managed to bring him down. However, the battle between Hairy Mammal and the leader of the nomads was proving more difficult. Hairy Mammal, already wounded from his fight with LK-123, was beginning to show signs of exhaustion. The nomadic lion pressed him mercilessly, looking for the final blow that would bring him down. It was at this moment that LK-123, in an unexpected act, charged forward to save his brother. In a swift move, he lunged at the nomadic lion, distracting him long enough for Hairy Mammal to regain his breath. Together, the two brothers, who had recently been on opposing sides of a conflict, now fought side by side against a common enemy. The fight between LK-123 and the nomadic leader was violent and desperate. LK-123, though agile, was still inexperienced in battles of such intensity. The nomadic lion managed to land a deep blow on his flank, making the young lion stagger. However, before the nomadic lion could finish the attack, Hairy Mammal, summoning all the strength he had left, charged at him, striking him down with a devastating blow. Hairy Mammal's victorious roar echoed throughout the crater, but he knew that this would be his last great feat. The nomads were defeated. One of the invaders fled, wounded, while the other, the leader, lay lifeless on the ground. Once again, the Ngorongoro Crater belonged to the quintet. But at what cost? LK-123, gravely wounded, lay beside Hairy Mammal, breathing heavily. He had proven his strength and loyalty at the crucial moment, but his ambitions to take Hairy Mammal's place now seemed distant. The battle had changed something inside him. He realized that the true weight of being a leader was not only in conquering power, but in defending it. As the sun began to set over the crater, casting a golden light over the arid land, the quintet, now reduced in number, gathered around Hairy Mammal. LK-116, LK-117, and Titan Jr. were still standing, but their bodies bore the marks of battle. They had won the war, but they knew that Hairy Mammal's era was coming to an end. The great leader, exhausted and wounded, lay down on the ground, his heavy body finally giving in to the weariness of a lifetime of battles. In his final moments, Hairy Mammal looked at his brothers, now fully aware that his reign was ending. He knew that despite the tensions and internal conflicts, the coalition had prevailed. His legacy, forged in blood and struggle, would endure. And though his body would perish, his story as the king of Ngorongoro would be told for generations. With one last breath, Hairy Mammal closed his eyes, his breathing slowly fading. The quintet, now without their leader, stood in silence, reflecting on the end of an era. LK-123, still lying beside his older brother, felt the responsibility that now weighed upon his shoulders. He had fought to take Hairy Mammal's place, but now, with the leader dead, he understood the true weight of the crown. The dynasty of Ngorongoro would continue, but it would never be the same. The drought still persisted, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear. The legacy of Hairy Mammal, the greatest of all kings, would never be forgotten. And so, we come to the end of another beautiful story of wildlife. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel and share it with a friend. Big hug.